Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast, where every week we bring you stories for you to listen to in your ears or transcribed for you to read. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are here to tell you a story. How you guys doing?
Great.
Perfect.
We're doing.
All right, so I am going to give us a little recap onto our sequel to this story is a sequel of our last one. Do you guys remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So the scene starts with a dream that one of the characters has, where he's looking over the city and he thinks about how it kind of looks like a circuit board, and then some giant creature comes out of the ocean with his face and kind of destroys the city, and then he wakes up. This is a sequel to Hero from the Past. If you haven't listened to that one, go ahead and listen to that one first so that you kind of know a little bit what's going on. At the end of that story, when things were just getting resolved, there was visitors from outworld visitors from outside of Earth's solar system. These were humans that had left Earth in order to kind of explore and see the stars. They had gone through some changes, as you will, when you live in different gravities with different environments and things like that. So they had gone through some changes and had kind of instituted a little bit of a technocracy, a little bit of a technology-based government to try and help humanity, their original humans from Earth, kind of get back on their feet after the apocalypse. And all this is happening in this story. The magic system, which Reed brought up, is a divine intervention. What's it called, Reed?
I called it divine empowerment.
Divine empowerment.
Heralded by angelic beings.
Heralded by angelic beings. We don't have a ton of information on how that's working out. I know in the previous story, Hero from the Past, there was some rationalism that was going on, and people had kind of rejected the idea of faith or belief, and people were kind of rediscovering that and discovering that there was actually power in sort of faith and belief in things. And so I'm interested to see how Reed's magic system will sort of flesh out. The next week, I had quartet members, which was our hero, or our main character anyways, Chase. He had through a series of events, listen to the last episode to hear exactly how it happened, but through a series of events, he shares a genetic connection with our friend Teach,
Yep.
the hero from the last story. And so because of that, these nanobots, which were connected to the Teach in the last story, come to him. And it turns out that they had kind of stored Teach's entire consciousness in themselves and were waiting. So he became the quartet members. There was him, and then the nanobots came to him and personified themselves out as Teach. And then there's the AI. And so he feels a little bit like he's going insane a little bit, as all of a sudden his great-great-great-grandfather, great-great-great-great-great-great, whatever, 1,500 years grandfather is now in front of him and is kind of also trying to figure out what's going on, but is kind of a well-adjusted person who's like used to change and understands the world around him. So he's going to, I think, help Chase a bunch. And then there's the AI, which is kind of through the years of studying humanity and Teach's consciousness, has kind of himself gained a little bit of a consciousness, kind of a self-awareness. And so those are the quartet members. Reed, I don't remember what the unique pet was.
Thud. He was like a canine police dog from
Right.
the off-world. And remember, you had there was a heroic kind of character who was in law enforcement, and he like works and tries to cooperate with the off-worlders.
Right.
And there was this one group that had, for many generations had been living on this planet with like maybe 115% of Earth gravity, and they tended to make stouter, more muscular type, physical structure. They're so they come to Earth, and it's a lighter gravity. They can jump higher and they can run faster.
Right.
But they're powerful. And this dog is like got the like conformation of like a Belgian Malinois, kind of a very. If you see pictures, they're used as police dogs, but they're very athletic. They can they're can really jump, and they're really agile and all this. Only he's got they call him Thud because he's like a Saint Bernard, or he looks like a Saint Bernard or a Newfoundland, a big heavy beast of a dog. But he's got all this the attributes of a very agile dog.
Right. And I remember now they're brothers. So there's Chase is kind of the anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
And then this brother who is kind of people view him a little bit as a turncoat because he works with the resident Outworlder. So how it happens is each of the Outworlders get sort of a certain amount of time on Earth to kind of get their agenda through, and he kind of works with them. And there's some issues, there's some people who don't like the Outworlders, who kind of, you naturally look at a force that is much stronger than you, and maybe you see aggression where there isn't any.
Right.
And maybe with some of them there is aggression, and the Outworlders, they kind of have all their own different agendas on what they want to do on the Earth, and so the infrastructure that's been built up over these past years has been really kind of hodgepodge, really efficient in some ways, but also incredibly hodgepodge in other ways, creating kind of a cyberpunk kind of techno world with still like a lot of suffering. So not sort of post scarcity like the Star Trek world, but much closer to, if you imagine like kind of a Coruscant where there's like still slums, even though they have like space travel.
And I was thinking like some of the regular, Earth people were like, these consort newfangled ideas are just ruining everything here. And kind of like I don't want their fancy ways. I want the way we always have done it, and kind of a pride-based resistance.
Right, right. And I think I kind of threw out that the villain himself was kind of typically when with these stories, it's the villain is the technocratic overlord alien invaders. But I think in this case, maybe the villain is in fact the sort of main resistance fighter who is trying to sort of throw off all of these things, which in some ways could be considered good, but ultimately he's trying to get power for himself.
Right.
Then there was the wise old man, which I also don't remember.
It was 3 of them.
The threefold form of the wise old man.
Right. You want to give me a quick recap on that?
So each one of them kind of heads a different field of thought that, at first might seem in opposition to each other. Right. But gives kind of the word of wisdom to find kind of the right path to go along kind of 3 different options. One being kind of assimilating and not going along with in a bad way, but living along with what's going on, being a part, not necessarily being a part of, but participating in the progress and, getting by, because this is where it is. This is where the world has moved on to, and, you go along with it. Without compromising, but, it is the way that it is. The second one is like a hermit, kind of directs people towards the kind of the path of, okay, well, you don't like this. Well, this option is to completely remove yourself from it. Hermit,
right.
Live up in the mountains,
right.
Kind of completely disattached from it.
Yeah.
And then the third one kind of redirects a lot of these terrorist groups, vigilantes, people that are fighting, these off-worlders, but kind of redirects them to like fight good battles.
Right, I remember that now. He kind of says
not necessarily
your
just
efforts can
down
be used
with
over here. Or...
Yeah, but it's like not just down with the monarchy because some of it's bad, but like what parts are bad, fight that.
Yeah, so he's got kind of a connection with the various rebellions that spring up.
Yeah.
That is an interesting point. I was thinking that's one of the reasons why it's taken. I'd like that to be a theme. That's one of the reasons why it's taken so long to get to where they are in this sort of technology level, is because rebellions keep popping up, right? And this is one of the things that you see it in all the Outworlders that you talk to, and when they talk to each other, is that they, at one point in time in their travels and in their slow change, either dealt with their own human contrarian nature, right? Whether that was some of them bred it out of their civilization, some of them use inhibitor chips, some of them are ultra violent and get it out in like fighting rings and stuff like that. You know, some of them are sedate them. Like, they've all sort of dealt with it in different ways. And human beings, they notice, haven't dealt with it, quote unquote, you know, taking care of it. And this is a thing that they talk to themselves about, or to the sort of federation of other, we could call them alien races, because they're all human descent, but they are all very different now, sort of thing. So what story elements did you guys have for this week?
I had a unique artifact.
Sad ending.
Is that funny, Reed?
Yes, it's funny because I didn't have it until just now, so it's good.
All right.
Well, what do you got?
I have unique vehicle.
Okay.
So do you
want to go first, or do you want me to go first? Because I've got mine ready.
Me too. I'll go first. So the unique vehicle is a very unique vehicle. It's what the villain uses to do most of his infiltration work, right? Because Chase is not a twin to his brother, the hero. He is, in fact, a triplet. And the other triplet is the villain, I've decided.
Cool.
And he has, when Chase activated the nanobots, right? Which, in my opinion, happened like a couple of months ago. And then he's been kind of dealing with the repercussions of having his great-grandsire like following him around. What it also did was it freed up a bunch of these nanobots, and they went out and started to find people who had the gene of Teach, right? And I'm not saying that Teach was like some kind of prolific stud or anything here, but there's enough people out there who sort of have the gene, you know, that people start kind of showing up with weird things. Things get kicked up a notch as far as the weirdness. And our villain or antagonist, whose name is I can't think of a good one, whose name is
I was gonna say Chong. Kind of a mix of Chase and Teach.
No,
but
I was trying to find something. I was trying to find something.
Trying to be funny, but anyways.
I was trying to find something. So there's this really great book called Snow Crash, which everyone should read if they're over 18. And the main character, his name is Hero Protagonist, Hiro. So he's like Japanese, but. Anyways, what this villain has basically most recently been able to start to do is he has been able to basically interface with any piece of technology, right? And regardless of who it is, if it's the Outworlders, it doesn't matter. It uses a sort of subcode that all of the Outworlders all have baked into their system. And he can basically sit like in his room, like in his apartment, like on an easy chair, and just like reach his hand towards a network terminal, and he can travel through the network and get through basically anything, right? Right now, he's only restricted to being able to like research things, and he can break encryption, but that's kind of a little bit more difficult. And so it's starting off slow, his ability to kind of figure things out and spread mayhem. And, what he's looking for night after night is their plot, so that he can uncover their plot, so that he can show everyone that they're actually out to kill everyone, right? So he is, you could call him a freedom fighter. You could call him I don't know what you could call him a investigative journalist, and that's fine. But he's not doing any of this for the love of the truth. He's not doing any of this because he has been slated himself, like slighted or hurt, or his loved ones taken away. There's some other motivation. And
to collect all the Pokemon. That's what he wants.
Yep, all 151 original Pokemon. He's got to catch them all. His name is Ash Ketchum. No, part of me is thinking that he basically, his older brother, the hero, and his younger brother, the anti-hero, maybe one of them got into some school and maybe he didn't. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to figure out. Most of our villains come pre-villain. You know what I mean? They're like already, the villain is already baked into them. This kind of villain origin story, I think, could be interesting if we could figure it out right. It could be, I don't know. Reed, you got any ideas? How do villains become villains?
Yeah. How does that twist? How does that twist of, that narcissistic personality disorder? How does that take
They
precedence?
don't get what they want by sheer fact that they should have it while someone else is getting it around them.
Yeah. So, the old 7 deadly sins, envy, greed.
So it could be something like there's genetic tests, and it's kind of a badge of honor in some places to see that you can trace your lineage back to Teach, right? And everyone gets the test done, and these triplets knew that that they had the lineage because their father has the lineage, and so they go in to do this test, and the test is the highest amount of anyone of their current age, right? So they're like direct descendants, like the strongest and direct descendants. Now, the reason why this test is taking place is because the Outworlders know of large stores of the nanobot technology that exist, but they can't get into it, right? It's on the moon.
Oh, yeah.
It's on the orbiting satellites. It's under the water. It's buried underwater, buried underground, and they can use this technology if they can get enough of it, because they haven't had it for years, hundreds of years even, or thousands of years even. And if they can get it, then they can research these raw resources and sort of make more or augment them. And so it's kind of like I imagine it's a little bit like a Arrakis sort of thing, Reed.
Yeah.
You've read Dune.
Yep.
It's kind of like an Arrakis sort of thing. Each Outworlder gets a chance to sort of go to Earth and try and get as much of this stuff as possible. Seth, you mentioned that they were mining something in the first episode.
The leftover husk of...
So that would make a lot of sense, that they're mining it and they're using humans to mine it, but they're also doing tests to try and find, because if they can get the right person with the right sort of genetic markers to learn the right things, they can basically take over. They can use them to unlock all these things, and then they will still help the humanity because they still do care, but they can get these giant treasure troves of this material, which would be just kind of like absolutely mind-bendingly invaluable. Maybe they need it to power their FTL drives. Maybe they use it. It's a resource. It's a drug. Whatever it is. You had mentioned that, Seth, maybe it was beautiful. Maybe they consumed it. So whatever it is, it's like each one of them is basically given the task, and they play it up as, well, we all want to experience the Earth, and so we're each given a turn. But really, each one sort of fails, and the next one is kind of put in place to see if they can get it. And there's some altruistic. I'm not saying all the Outworlders are bad, but that's just kind of, with Arrakis, read Dune. That's all I got to say. And so that's why they do these genetic tests to sort of laud who has the, so they've built up this mythos around Chase around Teach to kind of hype up this idea of getting your genetics tested. And these three brothers come through as the highest possible. And maybe our middle brother just is the lowest. And so he, of the three, still higher than the average person, but lower. So he sort of gets this, like, you know, his college, his university stuff isn't paid for. You know, he doesn't get the job. He doesn't get the big everything. You know, the youngest brother who turns into the anti-hero gets all the education and all that kind of stuff. And the middle brother who has more than him, he's the one who gets fast-tracked into the, you know, police academy program. And he just kind of gets like, don't worry, if one of them die, we'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that would be enough of a catalyst to kind of turn a person aside, especially his own brothers who seem to kind of like, wow, this is so great. I get all these things. Oh, my middle brother doesn't get any of it.
I think one of the ways to do that would be perhaps the one has like the photographic recall and memory. They all have high tests, but one of them has the high memory capacity and recall.
Right.
And the other one is the one with the implant that they've observed that there's nanobot activity redirecting to him.
Right.
Right. So they're seeing this. And the one is useful because, well, he can remember everything, recall it in complete detail. Right. So that's why he's in their, you know, program.
Right. Right.
For like in the government, in the secret police, in the, you know, all this stuff, right. In their higher levels, because he's, you know, he's got it, you know, he's a useful asset. And the other one, they know that the nanobots are following him and they're doing something. Maybe they can't see the reincarnation of Teach or whatever it is that's going around with them, but they know that there's something. There's an the nanobots have an interaction with him. And the third one doesn't, or at least not that they can observe directly. And so it's like, okay, you're useful. We need to keep an eye on you.
Right.
Because you might be what we want. And the third one is like, okay, well, obviously it's high, but, you know, it's not producing anything that is of value.
It could
that
even
we're looking for.
It could even be they aren't triplets. This could even be a Peter Valentine Andrew situation from Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Where they had one kid and he was super high in something. And then they had another kid. Like, so in the Ender series by Orson Scott Card, the whole world has a one-child policy, but the parents of the three main characters had one kid, and he was like a super genius, but he had no empathy. And so they're like, oh, he might be the next general, but he has no empathy, so he's gonna be a sociopath. So have another kid, and which is unheard of. And so they had another kid, and they had a girl, Valentine, and she had tons of empathy, a genius, but she had too much empathy. And they're like, well, for our general, we need a perfect. And so they said, have one more kid. And so they had one more kid whose name was Andrew. And he was like this perfect mixture of them too. But he was a third. He was a weirdo because he was, you know, not the same. You know, he was an outcast, essentially.
Yeah, a third child mistake in a situation where it's not permitted.
Right. But maybe that's not a good idea for this story, just because I think I like the idea of triplets better.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So I like your idea, Seth. I think that's a good idea. That, and so the villain, the middle kid, it's always the middle kid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darn middle kids.
I know, right? I'm with you, Reed. I mean, Seth. Reed's a baby.
Baby.
Yeah.
We got our own problems.
Yeah. Yes. I know, Reed.
Don't be tedious here. No.
Yeah. He has begun this kind of resistance, first of himself, but now he's starting to try and gather information, trying to gather people to fight against them, to show them, you know, it's like, I am made to feel so small, so I'll get so big that no one can ever ignore me ever again.
Yeah.
Kind of like that in a macrocosm. Not a microcosm, but a macrocosm. So he uses the unique vehicle, which is this unique, and he hasn't told any about it, interface that perform, aided by the nanobots probably, with technology, and allows him to kind of travel through the networks and look at them. And, he can, so there's like the rise of hackers, there's the rise of him, and he's starting to gather a group of people with him, but underneath him to try and overthrow the tyrants. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's the unique vehicle. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So this will be a quick one. Kind of other details can come in later about it, maybe tie into the sad ending. But the unique artifact is basically the nuclear football.
All right.
I don't think that nanobots have to be engaged to use it. But whatever other old world tech that's still around, and definitely usable. Perhaps this is something that Charlie had in a stash for years.
Right.
And it's resurfaced in someone's hand, but it would be obviously not a football, but you know what I mean. It's maybe throughout all the years, Charlie or one of Charlie's descendants tied pretty much all the other bunkers and missiles and weapons and things that were left over that they found to one massive daisy chained control mechanism, just in case.
Right, just in case we need
just
to end life on Earth.
And it's not like it's like, oh, okay, all of it goes off at once, but it's like the access point to a great arsenal of highly conventional weaponry.
Absolutely.
Which I think could tie into the sad ending, but I don't want to give Reed a sad ending.
I just had this thought that the way that this has stayed out of the hands of the Outworlders is that really early on after they came, the descendants of Charlie formed a monastic order where all of the codes or how to access it or whatever are stored in what's the word, repetitive chants, right? And so it really ends up being like a monastic order whose entire purpose is it is the containment system. And they live way far in the mountains, and they are very very astute on how they research who it is that can come and listen, and no one ever learns the whole thing. It's like maybe there's only if you think like if there's 1,400 lines of 32-bit hexadecimal code to decode this, then there's always, did I say 1,400 or 140?
1,400.
So there's always exactly 1,400 monks, and each of them only knows every other phrase, none of them knowing in what order it should be put in, but there is some cipher to say. And it's like, this is how it's been sort of Charlie being like an obsessive, just in case kind of guy, has kind of...
Okay, here's a twist of that.
Okay.
The code to get into it is pi to 1,400 places.
Oh, yeah.
So something that someone who knew pi and could remember it and would then hear, let's say, like the one child, right, that has the photographic memory.
Right.
They could hear that string of numbers and be like, oh, this numbers and those numbers, and they're all kind of jarbled. Well, that's all pi to 14,000 places.
Yeah.
So anyways, there's one twist that could go with it, but...
I like the idea. We've sort of established that Charlie is kind of like this obsessive prepper. I like the idea of his forebears like being like, you know what we have to do? We have to create a monastic order and basically convince people to dedicate their entire life to just preserving this secret from the aliens. It's like very,
well, I think the one at least the one wise
theories.
Old man is I would say, if not all three wise old men are
Charlie
descendants of that line.
Yeah.
One that takes the monastic order, one that is quite literally involved in the resistance. Yeah, a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
And maybe the third guy isn't so much a, live and let live, get along with the thing. He's part of the other two, but just like the mole inside of the thing that's there. But
yeah, I mean, the cockroach has to survive.
Yeah. So anyways, there's that. But.
Yeah. So we've got a pretty decent story. I have my ideas about for my beginning scene. I have my ideas about that. But someone pulled sad ending. And so I don't know, Reed, do you have any other things you want to add to this? I'm trying to think about how this story would happen. Part of me thinks that the oldest brother, the cop, is sort of, he's kind of the one we see first.
Right.
Or maybe it's the youngest brother is the one we see first. But you see these three separate people, and you don't have any real picture that they're connected to each other in any way until, there's like you got to come home, for Christmas for dinner. And then, maybe the oldest has been covering, like the middle brother, the villain, has been caught a couple of times, and the oldest has been kind of covering for him, and there's some contention there. And the youngest, who is sort of experiencing all these crazy things, is, he's like just out of being not a teenager. He's just out of, 16, 17, 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And so he's kind of like the kid, and everyone kind of views him as the kid, but he's kind of getting this instruction from Teach himself.
Right.
There's like a million different things. It's getting harder and harder for the older brother to cover the tracks that the middle brother is making. It's getting harder and harder for him to cover these. And for a little bit, the villain is getting the anti-hero to help him, Yeah. The middle brother is getting the younger brother to help him, either through like giving him that affection that he so desperately craves, or by, young adults, especially boys' natural proclivity to be rebellious to the system. It's like, hey, do you want to help me spray paint a bunch of profanity on the side of a building? It's like, well, yeah.
I think I can see that the way this is going. Maybe if you guys have more to offer, I guess I'll hold off. But I'm seeing a way this kind of wraps up.
Yeah, I would say the other things that I would have to add to it would only kind of tie into the ending. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to mention those things until you let us know how it wraps up.
Not to. There's sort of a wild card here, which you sort of introduced in the quartet last time.
Yeah.
And here we've got this AI whose kind of job has been managing how all this works together, and he's kind of got a mind of his own.
Right.
And there's this AI has become aware of the monastic order, and just saying this is a wild card. A place that I can't control, which doesn't fit into where my programming permits me to go. And what with one thing and another, as he struggles with the frustration of trying to, Big Brother trying to make everybody play nice with the law enforcement community, and with the middle brother really throwing a monkey wrench in seemingly completely self-serving modes for his own amusement or self-protection or whatever. He has stumbled across Operation Firestorm, the fail-safe, the unique weapon from the first episode, and inadvertently activates the shutdown self-destruct sequences, and every time that the chases augments, leap to a new level, and the villain, middle child, I think, I maybe have gotten that wrong, but, finds himself, what's the word? Kind of traveling through the network and kind of mucking things up.
Right.
The AI this is crazy making for the AI. It's not working. And then you have so he's trying to keep Chase on, kind of on track. And he just sees that, oh man, let's just take the eraser and wipe the chalkboard clean and kind of start over.
Ooh.
And this is, however, the AI is just the AI. He doesn't have that breathe on me, breath of God. He does not have the soul and doesn't see, is not able to calculate the true nature of the law of unintended consequences. So when he twigs upon Operation Firestorm, and twigs the self-destruct sequences, and all and they just begin to self-expire,
right,
and shut down, and we descend into really a kind of a pathetic mess.
Yeah, something, as you were talking about that, Reed, it made me think of like Operation Firestorm essentially was a virus meant to overload the nanobots and cause them to expire.
Right.
And since all the infrastructure everywhere was built off of this technology, that back door that the villain has been using to be able to get in, it just kind of jumps from nanobots to network and just starts to just destroy all of the computers. And then pretty soon you have Outworlders desperately trying to escape as their ships are going up, but then they receive one last kind of data blast from the surface, and then the whole ship just kind of stops in midair,
shuts
and then
down,
falls down.
Yeah.
As they're trying desperately to get away from this kind of rolling storm.
Yes.
Oh, dude, that is scary.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that's pretty close to what I was half thinking to add to something like that with the whole nuclear football, but it works.
Yeah. What a sad ending.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wait, It Gets Better. Sometimes we have happy endings. Sometimes they're just sad. If you like this episode, if you like this set of episodes, let us know. Send us an email. Give us a good, give us a rating on YouTube, or not YouTube, but iTunes. Tell your friends about us. If you didn't like this episode and you want to let us know how much you didn't like it, send us an email at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com, or message us on Twitter at @getsbettercast. If you have good ideas for stories, if you want to maybe write a novel out of one of the stories we wrote, whatever it is you want to do, we would be happy to hear from you. Tell a friend, tell an enemy, and don't forget to wait, because it gets better.